So there's this story in the New Testament Christian Bible of Jesus at one of their greatest feasts, and it's called the water libation ceremony. And this feast, there's literally water everywhere. You can look it up. And on the last and greatest day of the feast, Jesus yells out with a loud voice and he says, "If anyone is thirsty, come to me and drink." Now, at that time, with hundreds of people, they must have thought that this guy is absolutely crazy. What do you mean if anyone's thirsty? There's water everywhere, Jesus. But you see, the reality is, Jesus was not talking about natural thirst. The reality was Jesus was talking about spiritual thirst. He was laying down the precedent. He was laying down the foundation that as humans, oftentimes there's natural thirst, but there's this other part of us, this spiritual aspect of our humanity that oftentimes longs to connect with the divine, that oftentimes long to have an authentic experience, an authentic, real relationship with the divine. And in that moment, he was setting the foundation that he was a source of living water. That if anyone is thirsty, they can come to him. And this week, what I was reminded of is that, Jesus is still the source of living water. And what's really crazy about this idea of living water in opposed to just water, you see, in their culture, living water was water that came from a natural spring, or it came from the rains. It was natural water. It wasn't water that was stored somewhere in a flask or in a bucket, or water that was stagnant. It was water that was alive. It was water that was moving. And so Jesus was laying the claim that in terms of spirituality, in terms of people who are thirsting for God, he's saying he is that source of living water that he would pour out and give. And later on, as Jesus continues to explain this story, we find out that truly that water yet again is another metaphor of the Holy Spirit that Jesus would give to all humanity. You've heard of it, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Father gave the Son, and the Son gives the Holy Spirit. And what does the Holy Spirit do? It awakens a hunger and it awakens a thirst in our lives for the real thing. And so what I want to encourage you today is that Jesus is still the fountain of living water, and he's still pouring it out in our lives. And all we have to do is ask for it. So this week, would you ask for living water?